The Spinoff Podcast Network.
K-pop to me means more than just listening to music. It's learning to be myself.
The Spinoff's new documentary, K-Pollies, follows 3 Pacific youth obsessed with K-pop. In a one-off documentary, see what they've found in Korean pop culture and how they bridge it with their own.
When you start dressing, looking different, everyone side-eyes you. But in K-pop, they're just like, no, like celebrate yourself.
Watch K-Pollies today at thespinoff.co.nz/videos. Made with the support of New Zealand On Air. You're listening to Business is Boring, a podcast that reckons it's anything but. Business is Boring is brought to you by Spark Lab, offering inspiration and practical advice to help businesses find their edge. To hear more about Spark Lab, including details about the latest events, workshops and business tools, visit sparklab.co.nz. And now, here's your host, Simon Pound.
You're listening to Business is Boring, a podcast that reckons it's anything but. Business is Boring is made by the Spinoff with help from Callaghan Innovation, New Zealand's innovation agency. Here's your host, Simon Pound.
In 2003, a group of mates threw a party for 400 people in a vineyard in Gisborne. 2,000 people came, and it began what has become a festival that's famous on the world stage and a rite of passage for the Kiwi youth. Rhythm and Vines grew and grew. From that first event, they added days, internationals, camp, and a whole roster of other events they promoted. But they grew a bit too far, too fast, and some of the things that made the festival feel special were lost. After what was called a riot in their secondary campground, they went back to basics and have rebuilt the festival into a safer, friendlier, smaller and more curated affair. There have been highs and lows, big wins and financial losses, and last year news came that our guest today, Hamish Pinkham, founder and creative director of the festival, had sold half the business to one of the largest entertainment companies in the world, Live Nation. He's still guiding the ship, but has the help of a much bigger network to book, run and fund the event. He's still booking the acts and curating the festival, but now also able to step into some new ventures like the Phoenix Summit, an entertainment industry event coming in September. To talk the journey to here and what's next, Hamish Pinkham joins us now. G'day, kia ora.
Good morning, Simon.
Hey, thanks for being here. Tell us this origin story, which you must have told so many times over the years, but how was it that you and a bunch of mates started this thing that's now like a cultural phenomenon?
Yeah, well, it was a wild idea. Bunch of naive students with a big vision, but I guess the recipe still remains the same, really. It's a group of mates wanting to get together to celebrate the New Year's in a unique Kiwi setting near the beach with some sunshine and a road trip, and be entertained by some leading artists. And as we finished our time in Otago University and we had networks from all over New Zealand, it was only fitting that we'd organise an end-of-year party somewhere before people headed off to the real world. And Andrew, my flatmate at the time, had the vineyard in Gisborne, which seemed like a perfect location to gather the groups of mates. And we, handed out flyers around university, and it was the days before social media, so there were some pretty crude kind of emails being forwarded around New Zealand saying, join us at Rhythm and Vines. We secured the Black Seeds as our headliner, and it was a baptism by fire, really, learning about how to put on a party and one night wonder. And as you said, a couple of thousand people, drove over the hills into Gisborne and kicked off what's been a pretty memorable journey with Rhythm and Vines.
What was it about that vineyard that attracted you to it and knew that it would work? Because it's got such an amazing kind of natural amphitheatre going on there. Yeah,
it's a stunning location. And initially we thought, places like Wanaka and Nelson, and I'm from Hawke's Bay originally, and we had a site in Waimarama Beach, but something led us to Gisborne. I mean, we had some great mentorship by Andrew's father and the property owners. The rolling hills just suited a concert. They'd they'd sculpted out the valley to host these kind of events, and it was landscaped and certainly not to this extent with numbers, but it's a great space to host. And we've since found out the history of the area. It's called Waihika, which means water chief, and apparently over generations the local iwi used to gather in that valley to receive the water for the region. There's a natural spring tucked up in the hills, so people have been going there for centuries to gather, and it's only fitting now that thousands nestle into the amphitheatre to bring in the new year. And what a spot! I mean, it's what it has kept us passionate about the event. It's first place in the world. All the attributes of Gisborne and a world-class setting just make it what it is.
And that Gisborne kind of factor. You don't just drop into Gisborne, do you? It's like a real place that you kind of step into a different pace of life, and crossing through the gorge or coming around either of the pretty tough roads to come in from either other side. It's a real kind of like place out of the mainstream, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's been part of the success as well. It's a real journey to get there. You can't just stumble into Gisborne. You're right. You've got to earn it. You've got to come through those gorges and over those mountains and roll into town. There's an element of escapism at that time of year as people leave their jobs and their lives at university and jump in a car and head to paradise. But Gisborne's been huge, huge host. Welcoming the thousands. We've got the beaches in the city. You got the great sunshine, the vineyard setting. It's just a perfect festival town over that time of year.
Tell me about the kind of way you grew it from the beginning. So you had that first one that was oversubscribed, and then what did you kind of all go, oh shit, we're onto something here? How did you go from throwing it for a lark to it being your gig?
Yeah, I think we were lucky with that first year, having bright blue skies, everyone having a ball at the first Rhythm and Vines. The Black Seeds performed, DJ Sawani, and it was a really memorable event, and people left Gisborne that summer saying, shit, let's do that again. And it felt like the next year everyone came back with a couple of mates in tow. Word had spread about this, burgeoning party, and we had 5,000 at the second event, and we're lucky we had some success with the likes of Shapeshifter and Cora and Salmonella Dub, all household names now, but that whole scene helped drive the demand as well. And again, another bright blue sky on the second year, and everyone just stood on that hill overlooking the region, celebrating the new year with their mates. There was nothing better, and it was something we were able to build on.
And how did you go out and build that? Because I imagine as young guys, you'd be, early 20s, and then you starting to talk to some of the bigger acts in the world to try and get internationals along, and the bigger acts in New Zealand. Like, how do you go around building that trust?
Yeah, certainly a lot of blind optimism and passion, and we just had a vision for what we were trying to achieve, and I think that shone through in our dealings. I guess we had the success of the 2 years. We had the ticket sales to show that people wanted to attend this event. But yeah, it was certainly difficult breaking into that top tier of the industry, and there were established touring networks around the time, and the Coromandel and Taupo, and trying to attract the leading artists to Gisborne was something we had to work on. But we perhaps paid over and above for some artists in the early years, almost buying our way into the game, which you tend to do. But we always delivered a great experience for the artists. The crowds were great. The hospitality was fantastic, and we learnt as we went. We surrounded ourselves by some great mentors, both on the business front, but also on the event management and operations, and we were able to learn off some industry experts to strive best practices for our event. And as a result, we were able to grow quite quickly and get to a level that we started to get respected.
Tell me about the move to being multi-day and what drove that?
Yeah, that was 5 years into our journey, and we were essentially running a huge one-night party. Around 15,000 people would come to Gisborne for the week, and they'd almost wait around for the 31st to have this big wild night. And we thought, why not open the gates a couple of days earlier and invite people out to the venue and entertain them? We were, I guess, mimicking some of the leading 3-day festivals, the likes of Glastonbury and Coachella around the world. And it was slightly confusing for the market at first. I remember people saying, how are we going to do 3 days of rhythm and vines? We can't even really survive one currently. But it was the trend, internationally for festivals. Having a 29th kickoff meant we could access some of the touring talent in Australia and bring them over the ditch. And, those initial years, we had the likes of Franz Ferdinand and the Kooks and Public Enemy and Moby, and some world-leading acts could come to our event and then head on to Australia. So strategically from the program front, it was a big part of the decision. But really just trying to maximise the opportunity of everyone in town and get the party started a few days earlier, and it's since become the norm.
How did that feel in that first kind of 5 years when you go from probably, through a couple of mates finding the manager for a band and then they come and play, all local in New Zealand, to then having kind of Public Enemy who, they changed the world's culture, and they're playing at your festival. How does that feel for a bunch of young fellas?
Yeah, it was pretty exciting, and we were almost flying by the seat of our pants. We were taking all necessary precautions, and we, worked with authorities, and we, had some trusted advisors, but, it was certainly feeling in the dark and some pretty lofty ambitions to have the kind of talent arriving on our shores. But we had a vision and we took bold steps, and I think that's what you need to do to achieve your goals. It was certainly terrifying, from the risk portfolio that we had, the amount of deposits going out and some of the staff we were engaging, and, all resting on selling, X amount of tickets. And to be fair, those early years of the 3-day model were crippling the business. There were huge expenses going out on security bills, tripling over the 3 days. We were paying international visas and jets coming in with international talent, and program budgets blowing out. And, we had to learn over those first few years of the 3-day model how to get the numbers right, how to make it work. We probably overstretched with the kind of numbers we thought we would get. I think the budgets were based on 25,000 attending, and that took 3 years to achieve. So, you've got to work towards these goals. As we've learnt, things take half the time. But, I think we've proved to everyone and ourselves that the model was there. It just needed a little bit of massaging over the years.
Yeah, the fundamentals of running a business like that. I wonder if people who attend, how many of them would have put much thought into just how much earlier you were booking the acts, and just how much earlier you were paying the deposits, and just how much kind of cash flows on the line. It must be terrifying to spend 8 months going, shit, I hope this all comes through. Must be really hard.
Yeah, well, I compare it to farming, and not that I have a horticultural background, but you're almost sowing the seeds earlier in the year, and you're investing in your crops, and you spend 6 months tending to those, and you're hoping that you're not going to get a hailstorm or some sort of rot coming in. You're managing those crops for the season, and you come to harvest time, and that's where you bring home the bacon. And events are like that as well. There's certain building blocks that need to be done. Our team start in the first quarter of the year, booking acts, debriefing and securing our vision for later in the year. Go to market 6 months out, and you're selling a dream that's not quite realised. And then it comes to the end of the year, and you bring the team in to kind of harvest the crops and deliver the event. And it's quite a seasonal business, but if you get the recipe right, it can be quite rewarding.
And you were alluding there just before to how you got a bit ahead of your forecasts and had some hard times there, both financially, like a couple of years where you had a loss that most people would find pretty hard to fit in their heads, but also in terms of like the culture got out of hand. Tell me about how things got out of hand.
Yeah, so initially, as I said, the model was based on 25,000 people attending, and I think we had 18,000, 20,000 for a couple of years, and they're some pretty big lessons to learn when you don't quite get your numbers.
Even if those numbers are massive.
Yeah. So we found ourselves on the back foot financially. We were lucky enough to get some funding support, but they were big risks, securing those loans, again on a vision and on a dream. But we were able to claw back some of the debt with achieving that 3-day model, and then as soon as you get it right, things just ran away from us, and it was fantastic for a few years there. Leading into our 10-year anniversary, we had 25,000-30,000 people on site, which was fantastic, for the coffers. But with that came its challenges. Almost the culture started to develop around the event and in Gisborne, and became unsustainable. The drinking culture was, it was a big part of our success, people coming to Gisborne and letting their hair down. But with that came the man management and, managing a BYO culture that was, probably a little bit outdated in this day and age. But
and that BYO culture, that was never Rhythm and Vines, the actual festival, was it, so much as the campgrounds that you had for people who came to town?
Exactly, yeah. So it was a separate business on site at Rhythm and Vines. We took all necessary steps, but I guess people were coming to Gisborne for our event, so the onus was on us to help the authorities to manage the behaviour throughout the region. And kids are coming into town and letting their hair down, and as a result, we had some issues down at the beach, which I guess drove the change throughout the industry as a whole. Gisborne was perhaps one of the last bastions of the BYO culture after, the Mission concerts and the Wellington Sevens and a lot of these events, which had morphed into, more controlled environments. And it was only a matter of time before Gisborne stood up and took those steps as well. So, as a result of some of the behavioural issues in Gisborne, we were forced to make some changes and bring everything out to one site to get rid of the BYO culture, bring in a more of a European style of event where punters can happily enough drink during the day, but they drink from licensed premises that we control and run and authorities can oversee. And it was initially a big step for the culture in New Zealand to think about, not reaching into your chili bin and buying and grabbing a beer, but having to, head to a licensed premises. But it's been, big success, and we've been able to control the intake and promote, safe and secure drinking environment.
Because it's a big effect on a small place like Gisborne, isn't it? If you have 25,000, 30,000 people hitting town, plus all of the hospitality around the artists and all of the stretches on local business in terms of being suppliers and stuff. And I imagine that's been a real journey for you as well, of being able to be a real contributor to the Gisborne economy, and then also at times Gisborne's kind of helped out, you helped carry the festival, and then like going through that kind of journey together.
It's been it's a huge boom for the region. And initially, I guess some of the local suppliers, the Pack and Saves and the Liquor Lands, were not seeing the kind of business they used to do when little Johnny would roll in and buy 5 dozen double browns for the week. But they're still seeing kids get off site during the week, grab brunch in town, have a beer at the local pub, refresh, and then come out to site. We really promote getting people off site and into town and enjoying the beaches and what Gisborne's got to offer. And I think the city's still seen a huge uptake from all the punters we bring to town.
Tell me about the decision to bring in Live Nation, who, like people might have seen their name as the promoters on some pretty big gigs and the like, but they're an enormous entertainment company, aren't they, around the world?
Yeah, it was a fantastic opportunity for us, and we were looking for some strategic partners to prop the business up. And we'd toiled away for 15 years and managed to establish good governance within our business and some good cash flow and some really good systems and structures. But it was inevitable to be working with a world leading player at some point, and we had the opportunity to partner up with Live Nation, and we grabbed it. They're a huge force in the industry. They're growing in our region. They've got a portfolio of 100 festivals, and Rhythm and Vines is now one of those, and we can tap into that wealth of knowledge and access to talent. And it's an exciting new chapter for the festival, I think, to be in good hands. We've got some great minds working on the festival in all aspects, from the booking to the production to the ticketing and event management. And as long as the event can continue and be sustainable, that's all everyone involved really wants. So Live Nation provides that, and we're really excited about the future.
What are the ingredients for making a great festival? Because from the outside, if you're having to book acts pretty much a year ahead of when they're going to be playing, they might go up, they might go down. The fashion could move, there's so many kind of variables there. And also, you've got a festival now that isn't so much about the headliners alone, is it? As you sell most of your tickets before you even let anyone know who's coming.
Yeah, I think, that's taken 17 years to get to that point where we've got that trust and respect that we will deliver. But you certainly can't get complacent in this game. And it may look easy that we just turn the key each year and people roll in, but our team work throughout the year on all aspects, whether it's the social media conversations we're having or the branding and the look and feel of how we're presenting ourselves in the market. Certainly the music trends and establishing new relationships with leading agents and seeing where the music's going, And we've seen a lot of trends over our years from, the local Kiwi reggae scene through to, UK drum and bass. We've had a hip-hop era, which we're still, going through and establishing that kind of, grime through to mumble rap to whatever you may call it, which is popular today. House music's making a huge comeback and making sure that we're touching the right areas to keep our event relevant. And that's the exciting part of the festival. It keeps us on our toes, the creative elements that keep developing. And, technology changes as well. We're first to implement RFID at the event, making sure our ticketing systems are, up to play, whether it's on the resale side of the business or, upgrades and the camping aspect of the festival as well. We've been expanding into areas. So, certainly never get complacent. There's always something to think about. And I know our team work, throughout the year to keep maintaining the kind of success we've been having.
And now that it's not all on your shoulders with the Live Nation to help with that pretty big beast, is that meaning you're able to jump back out and start thinking about some other things to promote? Because I understand you were promoting some other factors and then pulled that all back in as well to focus on the big beast.
Yeah, so over the years we've contracted and expanded, and we set up the Rhythm and Alps Festival, which has been a great success down in Wanaka, and that's a partner of ours now. We have been working hard over the years to get the R&V model right, and it's worth focusing on to just make sure that things are in a good way. And I think now the festival's in a place where we're selling 2/3 of the tickets before the lineup comes out means we've got that respect and trust. And as I said, don't want to get complacent, but it's a great time to be looking at other opportunities in the market, how we can entertain our clients throughout the year, how we can be doing more in the Auckland region, how we can be working with the agents and their talent throughout the year in this market is something our team's been looking at. And we've been implementing some great initiatives the last few years. The Touch Base Festival here in Auckland. We've been touring acts like Fatboy Slim. But I'm really passionate about it. I think it's, I'm at a stage in my career where it'd be great to give back.
That's a great kind of segue into a question we always ask everyone, which is, what kind of advice do you give to people who are interested in getting started, creating kind of entertainment products or building a big brand and I guess building credibility overseas and all of the different things that you've had to do in order to make this a success?
Sure. Well, I think of my journey and I think of the first word comes to mind is passion. And leaving university, I had a real passion to be part of the music industry, and I was an aspiring musician and had a couple of bands down in Dunedin and some pretty early promotion around campus. And I really wanted to be working with some leading music brands, the likes of MTV and Universal Music, and rubbing shoulders with some fantastic talent. And that passion drove me to establishing the Rhythm and Vines Festival and being able to grow that over my career leads me back to just being passionate about what I want to achieve. And if you can find your niche, find something that gets you out of bed in the morning and that you can talk to people about, I think it can be infectious and it will get you places. So passion's one thing. The next thing that springs to mind is surrounding yourself with good people and some like-minded people that understand and appreciate your vision and your talent. And I've been lucky enough in my career to have some fantastic mentors from the early days of the festival with my friend's father and my own father, who were able to keep us in line give us confidence to pursue our dreams, through to some of the governance we've had in our business and some leading advisors and directors, through to today with the Live Nation team who are fantastic at supporting our dream. I think it's important to surround yourself with people that are going to help realise your vision and support it and be positive. So, yeah, a couple of tidbits from me: doing something you love and surrounding yourself with people that want the best for you.
Could you have, believed, and did people tell you were bananas to be trying to do this, especially when things got hard? Because they got good and hard a couple of years, didn't they? And and now to kind of look back and it's part of the calendar. It's like part of like the rite of passage for young people, like no exaggeration. They're part of the culture. Does that surprise you or catch you out or?
Yeah, I think I guess it's one thing that I'm proud of with the stickability and trusting the process, I think, as well. And you've got a vision in your mind and you've kind of know the steps you need to take. And sometimes, people will try and sway you from your path, and they might have good intentions, be it, family and friends that only want the best for you. But, they may be naysayers and well poisoners who are out to see you, fail. But trusting the process and believing in your vision and believing in yourself and your commitment to what you're trying to achieve is a huge part of it. And that's where the real tests are made. And that's, when you're down and out and no one else is believing in your vision and just trusting yourself and taking those steps, and that tenacity is what can be most rewarding when you do achieve what you set out to achieve.
And how do you define success at the moment? What's success for you, I guess, on a personal level as well as a professional?
Success is, I've been lucky enough to continue this journey. The business is sustainable. We've got a future. That's success for me. To wake up each day and work on this event that is a cultural icon. It's uniquely Kiwi. It's seeing 20,000 happy faces at the end of the year. It's working with some of my favourite artists. It's allowing some travel and to be surrounded by some industry experts. It's paying its way. It's paying my way in terms of a salary, and it's in my eyes it's been a big successful project. It's not always easy, and I think you've got to enjoy the good times, because next thing you know, you're rolling your sleeves up and giving it another crack. But I think it's a testament to everyone involved in our smaller team that the festival can be successful, and just having that passion for what you believe in and what you want to do will help, hopefully lead the way to what you can perceive as success.
Well, thank you, Hamish Pinkham, one of the founders of the Rhythm and Vines Festival and lately of the Phoenix Summit, and looking forward to see what you make happen with that.
Thank you very much.
Great, thank you for joining us. Thank you very much to Alice Webb-Liddell for producing, and thank you very much for having us along in your ears and listening. Cheers. If you are a fan and follower of the Spinoff, make sure you check out the Spinoff Members, a program where you're able to get behind and support and choose and shape the investigative journalism that the Spinoff provides.
You've been listening to Business is Boring, presented by Simon Pound, and brought to you by the Spinoff and Callaghan Innovation.
From the Spinoff Podcast Network, that was Business is Boring, brought to you by SparkLab. Make sure you're following Business is Boring wherever you get your podcasts. And for more information on SparkLab, visit sparklab.co.nz. Ready to rediscover the joys of cycling? With over 300 kilometres of cycle paths across Tāmaki Makaurau, jumping on your bike and going for a ride is such a fun way to discover the city from a different perspective. Cycling is getting more and more popular across Auckland, so now's a great time to join the hype and give cycling a go. Head to at.govt/cycling to find your nearest cycleway today. The Spinoff Podcast Network.